Alexander the Greek took the earth like a captain. Took the king of Persia, caught him slipping like he napping. The whole earth quiet before this man, he had power. Winning all the wars, lift his heart up like a tower. Then he got sick, called his men, split the kingdom. Trying to put their head, but they multiplied evil. Wicked Israelites made a covenant with heathens. They doing the same thing right now, I can't believe it. Gentiles that them scared, Antiochus took Egypt. Next stop Jerusalem, he about to test the people. They took the showbread, golden altar, and menorah. All of this keep happening because we keep breaking to him. Antiochus went back to his land to celebrate. 2 years later, he put fire to the heaven gates. Burned Jerusalem down, took out women and he made them slaves. Letter for the king, everybody want people. So if you follow laws that ain't the king's, you better leave them. But if we leave our laws, then our God gonna leave us. Many Israelites with the Father when they heed it. Sacrificing swine on the altar, stopping us from going to dirt and the drink off. Profaning the Sabbath, knowing that it's gonna cost us. If we don't do these laws, it's gonna cost us. But the spirit of Maccabees. If you wanna keep the laws and commandments, follow me. The spirit of Maccabees. If you wanna keep the laws and commandments, follow me. Yeah, hey, ain't no time for compromising. You show thyself a man, the heat is doing the same tricks. They about to do it all again. Going to war on Shabbat, tell the heat is ring plain. If you serious about them laws, out together we can stay. Don't be scared of the multitude, he go in vain. It ain't about the numbers, but power from Shemaim. Allah, Allah, Bahadam, Allah with the Malakim. Power in the blood, power with the mighty king. Back to the stove, they bum, war out the war. Got the land back. Shalom, shalom. Brother Azrael for the hopeful elect. Back with part 2 of the intro to dedication. Got back late, man, from the plantation, but so lucky. We still gonna get it in, man. Intro to dedication. In the midst of dedication, a little refresher, right? Last night, we went over chapter 1. Now, my plan is to kind of go through chapters 2, 3, and 4, right? For me to do that in one video, I'll have to skim a little bit in these chapters. But I want to make sure I hit the high points. So, we'll read along with me. And this will be like a discussion, even though I might be talking to myself here. I know it's kind of late, right? But it'll be a discussion. Salakia. Salakia. Be right back. All right, Salakia. Back to it, man. But like I was saying, we're going to kind of have a discussion, man. It is Think About It Thursday. So we're going to read and we're going to think about what we're reading and digest it. We may go to Google again, pull up some images, maybe some history, some articles, if they may come up, kind of like last night. But other than that, without further ado, I want to give honor first and foremost to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who sent his son as an instrument of salvation for the nation of Israel, right? Shalom to those scattered abroad, to every country, every kingdom, every land, to the four corners of the earth. Shalom also to the cleavers who know their role, know their position, know that the nation of Israel has been chosen, and know that God of Israel is the only God of gods, right? Shalom to those people. So let's start out. Chapter 2. It says, in those days arose Salakia 2. Shout out to Hezekiah for that song that played at the beginning. That was a great refresher, man. If you listen to that whole first verse that he's rapping, man, he talked out from verse 1 to 64, right? 1 to 64 was immaculate. And he put it in a rhyme. If you hear me pause or get chopped up or something, I'm just being, what's the word? I'm being cautious right now. All right. Anyway, something else going on. Chapter 2, verse 1, it says, in those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the son of Joarib from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. Right. So another good thing about reading the Apocrypha is you get to learn about a lot of other forefathers that had fame in the nation of Israel that are not mentioned in the Old Testament or the New Testament. Right. It's more history for our people. Verse 2, it says, and he had 5 sons, Johanan called Cadiz, Simon called Thasai, Judas, who was called Maccabeus, Eleazar or Alazar called Abaran, and Jonathan, whose surname was Apus. I might butcher those names, right? But here, we see that we read about Jonathan, we read about Judas, we read about Simon. All these brothers were the sons of Mattathias, right? Verse 6. And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, woe is me. Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers, right? So the temple was overthrown. And he's kind of like Jeremiah in this sense. He's in lamentation or weeping and crying and mourning, seeing what these Greeks did to his people, right? So once again, we don't need to be Greek, right? Once again, we don't need to want to be Greek or want to be like all these other nations, right? We're supposed to be set apart, holy. That's what holy means, to be set apart, chosen unto the Most High himself. All these other nations, they can follow each other. They can adopt the same language, all that. They can celebrate what they want to. They can celebrate the same things. But us as Israelites, us as the nation of Israel, we're supposed to be set apart. We're supposed to be separate, right? Salakia, let me keep seeing something. Right? Let me go to verse 14. It says, then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned very sore. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modin to make them sacrifice. And when many Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise, thou art ruler and honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with the sons and brethren. Now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done, right? So he went up to Mattathias, right? One of the a big influence on our nation at the time during this captivity or this persecution, right? And he tried to get him to pretty much, he tried to butt break him, right? Or butt break him, right? He tried to say, hey, look, I know you got this following. You know, everybody else is getting down with the program. When are you guys going to become Greek? Let's keep reading. It says, um, um, Salakia. Now, therefore, come first and fulfill the king's commandment like all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem, right? Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice through all the nations that are under the king's dominion, obey him and fall away, everyone from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to this commandment. Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. Right. So no matter how scary, no matter, the consequences, he was like the three Hebrew boys, right? He probably read about the three Hebrew boys. It's probably been passed down. And when persecution came and they said, are you going to bow down at the sound of the psaltery and the harp and the flute? He said, no, we're not going to do it. Right. Let me see where I want to go next. Salakia. Um, Verse 22, right? Chapter 2 and verse 22. We will not hearken to the king's word to go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left, right? We got to keep the truth, man. We got to stay in the truth. A lot of us, man, we follow out the truth for the most simplest reasons, the cares of this life. And those people weren't going to make it anyway, because when serious persecution comes like this, they won't be able to stand up for their religion, right? Verse 23. Now, when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all the sacrifices on the altar, which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment, which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. Also, the king's commissioner who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time and the altar and pulled down. Right. Um, and that's kind of important to see, because not only do you have to be able to willing to die for this faith, you have to be willing to take a life for this faith. If God say go kill this person, you got to be ready to do it, right? And you got to execute it to the T. You can't be like Saul and save all the good cattle and um, the the women and the king. You can't save those things. If the Most High give you instructions, you got to do it, and you got to be zealous, right? Just like Mattathias said, he was filled up with his zeal, right? Matter of fact, let's read this, verse 27. And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there. So, just like in the New Testament, that the New Testament wasn't the first time that happened, man, where they took up free will offerings and everybody moved out of the city and into distant lands, right? We did this before, and our people um, know what happened before, and that's why they act as such when they read about these stories, right? So Mattathias and his sons were influencing all the zealous people in the nation, right, to come up out of Babylon, right, to come out of her, my people. And they went and they kept their holy days and they kept their Sabbaths and they kept the law, and uh they didn't defile themselves with meats and things of that nature in the wilderness. Sometimes you got to be in the wilderness. Sometimes we got to be alone for us to do the will of God. A lot of us feel like we're in a moment of solitude or a season of singleness and all of this. Guess what? The Most High God might just be separating you so that you can pay attention to Him, right? Because if He don't separate you, a lot of us, we get caught up in the cares of this world. You'll be thinking about how you're oppressed. You'll be thinking about how you can't function in society. You'll say, well, we're captives. Oh, well, this is not our land of our rest. This is not our homeland. The curses are on us. You'll think about all these things, and then you'll make a covenant with the heathen. And that's what's happening to our people today. They're not coming out of this society, right? They're not gathering together. Oh, nation not desire. They're not doing those things that we see our forefathers do, and that's why they're falling short. And they're giving into the cares of life, the lust and the pride of life, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh. Right? It says, both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them. Right? You got to be able to take your whole family. Now, when it was told to the king's servant and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandment were gone down into secret places in the wilderness, they pursued after them a great number. So, even when we're minding our own business, even when we're escaping, guess best believe life is not gonna get easier, right? They might come after you, right? You might still have problems with your boss, right? He might end up seeing a picture of you with fringes on or something and got to persecute you. Now, you thought you were hiding. So, a lot of us think you can hide. You think you can. I'm not going to call myself an Israelite. I'm just going to say I'm a son of the Most High. I'm a daughter of the Most High. A lot of us think we can, blend in and camouflage ourselves and still keep the commandments. It don't matter. The Most High God said we're going to be hated for His name's sake. So even if you want to hide and not wear your fringes, or hide from the name the Israelites or Black Hebrew Israelites, whatever, we're all going to be treated the same. We're all in that wilderness, right? If you keep these law, statutes, and commandments, you are in that spiritual wilderness because the whole world ain't doing that, right? You're living set apart. And physically, you got to be ready for if they come and persecute you, right? We see the things that's going on in Gaza, and they're in the wilderness right now. We seeing it through the news, another nation, what's happening to them. When that comes to you, are you going to be prepared? All right, let's keep reading. It says, verse 32, they pursued after them a great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day. And other nations are going to know your weaknesses, right? It's not, pretty soon it won't be just you don't get a job because you don't want to work the Sabbath day. Pretty soon it's going to be persecution because you don't want to keep, because you want to keep the Sabbath day, right? These people, these Greeks, they're so wicked. These Idumeans or Edomites and all the nations that teamed up against them, they're so wicked that we have a rest day and they know that it's our day of rest and they want to make war with us, right? And we can't blame them because Esau was prophesied to take everything by the sword, right? And if they followed their old king, Alexander the Greek, and all his war tactics, hey, hit them when they're weak, right? And that's what they did. Let's keep reading. It says, made war with them on the Sabbath day. And they said unto them, let that which ye have done hitherto suffice, come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye shall live. Right? Gave him an ultimatum. Hey, do what the king says and you live. 34. But they said, we will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Sabbath day. Right? So then they gave them the battle with all speed. Right? They unleashed everything on the Sabbath day. Verse 36, howbeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they lay hid. Right? So they didn't work. They didn't hide themselves anymore. They didn't close the door to the places they were hiding and make barricades. They didn't work, man. They were sitting ducks. Right? Um, It says, howbeit they answered them not, neither cast stone at them. 37 says, but said, let us die all in our innocency. Heaven and earth shall testify for us that ye put us to death wrongfully. Right? So they were kind of taking on martyrdom. Right? We'll see a lot of these we'll see a lot of these Middle Eastern so-called Middle Eastern people um, die for what they believe in, right? A lot of Middle Eastern people, uh, they you have movies where they might strap a bomb to their chest, right? And they're okay to die because they feel like they're gonna get all those virgins in their heaven and get praised, right? And that's how we thought. You know why? Because we were a Middle Eastern people too. We were willing to die for our law, statutes, and commandments, and we felt that all of God's creation would testify of our innocency and our righteousness. Right? Verse 38 says, so they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath day, and they slew them with their wives and their children, their cattle, the number of thou, to the number of 1,000 people. So 1,000 people died on the Sabbath day because they would not fight on the Sabbath day. Imagine you chilling in on the Sabbath day, and the soldiers of your country barge in your door and tell you, and don't even say nothing. They just start shooting, right? These people were pretty zealous. Now, we're going to see if that was a smart thing to do. Verse 39, now when Mattathias and his friends understood hereof, they mourned for them right sore. And one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth, right? Because if there's no more zealous people in the earth, then it's all for nothing. It's all for vain. We've been wiped out, extinct, right? Because we know our wicked brothers and sisters, they just gonna team up with the heathen, mix and mingle, and now we don't have any royal, separate, holy bloodline, right? So what are they gonna do? Verse 41. At that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him. Neither will we die all as our brethren that were murdered in secret places. So guess what? They decided, yeah, we're gonna fight on the Sabbath day because it's lawful to do well on the Sabbath day. That's not just a New Testament teaching, right? The New Testament, right, came after the Apocrypha. And when you read the Apocrypha, you understand why they move like they do in the New Testament. Why? How do you think they got the idea after Christ left to leave the cities and start their own villages? But how do you think they got the idea it's lawful to do well on the Sabbath day, right? These things was written aforetime. Romans 15:4, right? It says, let me go to verse 45. Then Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars, right? And the children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly. They pursued also after the proud men, and work prospered in their land. So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles and out of the hand of kings, neither suffered they the sinner to triumph, right? So God was on their side. That's how you know them fighting on the Sabbath was a okay thing to do. Now, when the time drew near that Mattathias should die, he said unto his sons, now hath pride. So he's about to set his house in order. When you go through the Bible, and I believe it's in First Samuel, I believe it's in Kings, I believe it's in Genesis, right? Whenever you see a man about to die in the Bible, right, they're gonna set their house in order. That's what it means. Whenever in the Bible talks about set your house in order, get your house in order, it's because you are about to transition, about to give up the ghost, or even Christ, when he says set your house in order, get your house in order, he's coming back. It's because they look, this life is finna end, right? But the next life is coming. So how do you set your house in order just exactly, right? Does that mean, oh, I gotta go tell everybody sorry for this and sorry for that, and I'm on my deathbed, and please tell so and so to forgive me? And that's not what setting your house in order means. Setting your house in order was kind of a giving your will what you wanted to be done, right? For example, like Joseph, right? When he set his house in order, he said that Ephraim would be over Manasseh, right? Um, so that's setting your house in order. So now, when the time drew near that Mattathias should die, right, he's about to die, he said unto his sons, now hath pride and rebuke gotten strength, in the time of destruction and the wrath of indignation. Now, therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. So, hey, look, their father already written out their life for them. He said, hey, look, when y'all die, it better be for this law. It better be for this law, statutes, and commandments, right? So it's not far-fetched that Christ told all his disciples that they would die for this law, because it's been written that other people had to die for this law, right? And they read about these people and they knew it wasn't far-fetched, right? You might be in the Christian church and Christianity and you might read something like that in the New Testament and be like, dang, that got deep, that got serious. Hey, the Lord is a man of war, and so are his people, right? We're willing to die for colors, right? For gangs. We're willing to die for a whole bunch of nonsense, right? We're willing to die over words, willing to die over money, right? What if we was willing to die over these law, statutes, and commandments, right? Verse 51, call to remembrance that acts of fathers did in the time, so shall you receive great honor and everlasting name. He was trying to show them how to get a good reputation. Then he starts going through Abraham, Joseph, Phineas, uh, uh, Joshua, Caleb, David. And by the way, when you read this in the Apocrypha, translated in the Greek, verse 55 says, Jesus, for fulfilling the word, was made a judge in Israel. But we know that's Joshua. And you go and do your etymology, Jesus just means Joshua. So this lets you know, right, that Jesus, you know, in the New Testament, you know, didn't always, that name is how do I want to say this? That name isn't the only, he's not the only Jesus in the book. That's how I'll say it, right? Joshua, right? And we know he's Joshua is talking about, because verse 56 says Caleb, for bearing witness, right, before the congregation, received the heritage of the land, right? When he got that mount in Judah. But this is talking about Joshua and Caleb. Verse 57, it talks about David, then Elias or Elijah, right? Then Ananias, Azariah, Mishael, talking about three Hebrew boys, then Daniel, right? Daniel. Um, he talks about all our forefathers and all their deeds, and then he gives his sons the order for them. Salakia. Verse 64, it says, wherefore ye, my sons, be valiant and show yourselves men in behalf of the law, for by it shall ye obtain glory. And behold, I know that your brethren Simon is a man of counsel, right? So he said, Simon's going to be the counselor. Give ear unto him all ways. So guess what? When he died, it's no if, and, or but. When we need counsel, we go to we go to Simon. It's not, I got a better idea, X, Y. No. When he set his house in order, he said that Simon would be the counselor, right? He shall be a father unto you. So he said, look, I'm not going to be around. Simon is going to be like the father to y'all. Y'all go to him for advice. Y'all go to him when y'all need something. That's a big task he put on his son, right? Verse 66, it says, as for Judas Maccabeus, right, who all of us know, Judas Maccabeus, right? He hath been mighty and strong even from his youth up. Now, siblings know if a brother's been mighty and strong, so they might challenge their dad, but at this point, their dad has seen all of them at their youngest, at their lowest. He knows who the strongest is, and they say, hey, look, Judas is gonna be the strong of all y'all, right? It says, let him be your captain and fight in the battle of the people, right? So they said to fight under your brother. He gave, hey, look, y'all, he's gonna be y'all's leader. 67, take also unto you all those that observe the law and avenge ye the wrong of your people, right? So they had a mission to do. Let me see, chapter 3.
Slovakia. Where we at 33 minutes. All right, man. For the sake of time, because I know it's getting late, and the sake of me doing this decent and in order, I want to be able to highlight some things. And Lord willing, I'll get off work in time tomorrow so we can go over chapters 3 and 4 because those are some heavy hitters, man. And as we go into the closing of our feast, it'll be good to go over those, right? So, Lord willing, I'm back on for Friday, right? We haven't done a factual Friday in some time, but Lord willing, I'll get on. Maybe the brothers might pop on with me. Uh, but other than that, your brother Azrael, that was chapter 2, part 2, intro to dedication. Think about it Thursday. Shalom.